Hey people, I got something to put out there. I've been posting it on Facebook. I've been posting it on Instagram. But now I'm going to say it here. We are too busy blaming just the GOP, the NRA, and gun manufacturers for what is going on with our gun problem. And with these mass shootings and these school shootings. But let's put the shit straight. This is on the people too. This is your fault too. Not all of you, but enough of you that you just keep letting the problem persist. So I'm going to read to you as best I can because I'm dyslexic and I have very much troubles reading and writing, but I've done as good as I can. So I am going to read to you what I have been putting across to these different pages. And here it goes. I am going to say it. You know the GOP are acting like they will do something about this and pass some law like they did when Trump was in office. And this happened near an election. You know the GOP will have problems with this thing or that. Maybe pass some small law that does nothing to make the people think they are ready to get serious. But then election will come and go. They won't do a thing more. Wait for everyone to ignore that they are doing nothing about gun violence until the next horrific mass shooting. And even then, if enough people don't die, if it wasn't some school, someplace, they will still ignore it. If it isn't in an election year, they will ignore it because they only have so many small laws that do nothing to pass, and they have to save those for election years. They can't make any big moves if they want to keep getting that money from the NRA. And the NRA can't support any big moves if they want to keep getting that money from the manufactories. So the NRA keeps making their subscribers afraid of good common sense laws that will save lives. The GOP keeps supporting their stance. The gun manufacturers keep showing their appreciation with payoffs, and their subscribers keep believing their lies. One day, the manufacturers won't have enough payoff money for the NRA and the GOP, and without cutting into their own profits, because their guns and ammo would just cost too much to keep up with. The greed and the things might get better. The GOP might be willing to do something about gun control once that happens. But by then it will be too late because more and likely the majority of American kids will know what it's like to be in an active shooting situation in their schools, malls, theaters, or fast food restaurants. Every family will know what it's like to have a family member die in an active shooter situation, even in the most remote part of our nation, because the NRA, the GOP, and the gun manufacturers have deep pockets, and as long as people are willing to pay the manufacturers and the NRA's price, they will continue to have that deep pocket for the GOP. And GOP will continue to block any meaningful gun laws. So really, it's the people that keep giving the manufacturers and the NRA those deep pockets that are to blame for the GOP in action, and it is the voters' fault for keeping on voting this GOP mess into office. So let's just say it straight up. It's the American citizens' fault these shootings keep happening. It's the American citizens' fault that 19 kids and 2 teachers was gunned down because without you putting money in the manufacturers and the NRA's pocket, they wouldn't have the money to pay the GOP. And without you voting the GOP into office, they wouldn't be able to block common sense gun laws. So, all you GOP voters take a bow for all your success. It just took over 30 people in a week's time, and at least 20 of them kids. Way to go to show you care. Oh, wait, you don't. Unless the child that dies is unborn and going to kill its mother. You don't care unless you are going to force a woman give birth to her molesters or rapist babies full of STDs and God knows what other birth defect. You don't care unless the mother had a miscarriage and needs the dead baby removed from her body. You don't care unless the fetus is unviable and will die a slow, agonizing death after it's born. Then you care. You want to stop that death. But hey, some guy shooting up your kid's school, no problem. Let's just keep doing what we have been doing and what has been proven not to work, especially when good common sense gun laws have proven to allow law-abiding citizens to own guns, has proven to keep guns out of the wrong hands, and has proven to save lives in other countries. But, hey, why not just keep doing the thing that has clearly been proven not to work? Or do you just need a few more kids dead from an AR-15 round in the head, so you need a DNA test to identify them? Now, I know my reading wasn't perfect, but hopefully you can understand what I just said. And it holds completely true. These mass shootings, these active shooter incidents, they are on you, the American voter, who keeps voting these GOP people into office, who do nothing to protect your schools, nothing to protect your malls, nothing to protect your restaurants, nothing to protect your concerts, nothing to protect this nation from gun violence. They do nothing, and they will do nothing other than keep spewing their lies on how gun laws don't work. But yet, country after country after country after country, and I'm not talking about countries that just deny every citizen a gun. I'm talking about countries that allow their citizenship to own guns within the parameter of the laws of their country. I'm talking about those countries, places like Australia and the UK and other places. These places allow their citizens, and even Israel, allow their citizens guns. In Israel, their laws is they have to ask the state for a license. Now, 40% of the population gets denied that ask. Once they do get approved, they are allowed one gun only, and a limited amount of bullets. And if they want to buy more bullets, they have to prove that they used some of the bullets. They have to prove that they need new bullets. They can turn in their unused bullets and buy 50 more bullets, but they have to prove any bullets that are missing. If they turn in 40 fully perfect bullets to try and get 50 bullets, they have to prove they shot 10 bullets, or they won't get their monthly 50 bullets. Okay? They don't have kids, as the memes show, running around in Israel loaded with weapons. Every kid cannot have a weapon. Alright? So get that straight first. Get that in your head. The only countries that allow people to indiscriminately own a gun, they're in the middle of a war. Like Ukraine. So don't come back to me with this bullcrap. Oh, so then you don't think Ukraine should be arming their people? Of course I do! Fuck, the people are in the middle of a war! How fucking stupid are you? You people come up with every excuse for the reason why there should not be a gun law out there to protect our citizens like every other country does. And it's all because the NRA puts that fear in you. The GOP puts that fear in you. Because they need to sell those guns so that the manufacturer will give them their profit. So that the NRA can pay the GOP and go look for their new yacht. They don't care about you. They don't care about the citizens. They don't care about anything but how much profit they make. Oh yeah, the NRA has started a buyback program for AR-15s. So let's see. They're going to go to some guy that owns an AR-15 that paid $3,000 for that AR-15. And they're going to offer him $1,000. They're going to spit polish that AR-15. Make sure all the equipment is functioning right. And they're going to go out and sell that AR-15 for another $3,000, making a $2,000 profit. A far bigger profit than they would make from the kickbacks that the gun manufacturers give them. They don't do anything. Not a damn thing. Unless what they're doing is going to make them a profit. Because you see, some of these other countries used to have laws like we do. Laws that allow criminals to easily get their hands on a gun. Laws that allow it so officers can't arrest somebody if they illegally have a gun. Because they don't have to carry a license to prove they legally have a right to have that gun. Laws that make it easy for gun traffickers to buy as many guns as they want and traffic them across the southern border into Mexico, where those guns are often used against our border patrol and our citizens. But it's not profitable for them to pass gun laws to stop that. And you're to blame when you vote for a Republican. Every single one of you is to blame when you vote for a Republican. Because you know these Republicans have done nothing about the gun laws. And that's on you. Because they can't do what they're doing in blocking common sense gun laws. Because the Democrats don't have a filibuster-proof Senate. The GOP can block every gun law that comes up to the floor. You gave the GOP during Trump's administration and 2 years before that a filibuster-proof majority. And in those 6 years, what did they do? They blocked every bill that would help the American people. Oh, they passed bills all right. They passed the best freaking tax break bill for the rich. As that bill went down to the lower middle class and the lower class, they received less and less and less of that tax money. And in fact, some of them had to pay in for the first time to the IRS. Why is that? Well, it's because many of them were cut off from their medical insurance. Many of them was cut off from food stamps. And many of them lost the tax deductions for their home or for their job. But hey, we did great. We gave the rich more tax deductions. We took away food stamp subsidies for the poor, but we gave the rich more subsidies. And that's what the Republicans accomplished during Trump time. So they did a great job, didn't they? You keep on electing them. You keep on allowing this to happen. And that's not the only thing the GOP did. Laws that protect the consumer were rescinded. So big corporations could get away with cheating the consumer, and with what that formula manufacturer did, that ended up with 4 babies sick and 2 of them dying. And if you're going to tell me there's no proof it was the manufacturer's fault, talk about correlation. Let's see. All 4 of those children drank the same formula. All 4 of those from the same manufacturer. All 4 of those children ended up sick. 3 of them from the exact same bacteria. 1 from salmonella. Okay? And then 2 of those children died. But it can't be the manufacturer. It has to be something else. The only thing that changed in their life is the formula and the factory that formula came from and the batch of the formula it came from. And immediately after, that manufacturer had a recall on that batch of formula. But it can't be the manufacturer. Bullshit! Any detective would tell you the correlation is clear. It came from that manufacturer. It couldn't have come from anywhere else. 4 different families with no connection to each other. 3 of them with exactly the same bacteria and 1 with salmonella. All right. We could say maybe the one with salmonella didn't come from that manufacturer. But what about the other 3? Are you going to dismiss them because 1 possibly didn't come from that manufacturer? When all proof shows the other 3 came from that manufacturer, came from that lot, came from that batch? And all 3 of those children the parents didn't know each other. They weren't related in any way. They were just 3 separate families minding their own business, taking care of the baby. And they all 3 ended up sick with the same bacteria. So please don't give me this crap. You can't prove it was that factory. Because all evidence shows it was that factory. And you people keep voting these GOP in. Their reckless behavior of trying to cater to big business and corporations to try and give them every last bit of the tax breaks they can, while the workers that work for them pay in more taxes than any of the owners of their manufacturers. And where these owners of these manufacturers are totally unwilling to pay their workers a fair wage. The trickle-down thing don't work. It's BS. Those manufacturers and those corporations and those big business, when they get that extra money and they pay that last tax, they're going to use that money to buy the next, newest, greatest yacht and take a longer vacation. They're not going to use it to help their workers. And if they do use it to help their workers, it's going to be nothing but a drop in the bucket. But the GOP are going to keep on trying to rescind laws that protect our environment, that protect our workers, that protect our citizens from discrimination. They're going to keep on rescinding those laws. Why? Because it makes them a profit. They get paid big money from religious groups. Now you wonder why. Why in the world would they want to rescind the abortion law for all abortions? Because that's what some religion wants. Our forefathers made it so church and religion was separate. And they did that so that religion could not have an influence on our government the way they did in England. During the time that the Catholic Church was the most corrupt. Hell, they were locking women up in the dungeons simply for getting pissed at their husband for cheating on them. And then out there, the church members were out there raping these poor women and turning them into prostitutes. So excuse me, please, if the forefathers didn't want the church interfering with our government. They also didn't want our government interfering with our churches because they figured our citizens had the right to worship the way they chose. Not the way the government demanded. The only thing the government demanded is for the Constitution to be followed in the church's rules. Which means they can't go out there killing people because they think that they're a witch. They can't go out there killing people because they think they're a heretic. They can't go out there killing people because they think they're an abomination. The church cannot take away a person's freedom to do as they choose in their own home and in their own life, the way the church did in the UK before we decided to become an independent nation of our own. They can't give favor to the aristocracy while punishing the peasants on the ground. Our forefathers didn't want that. So go giving us this BS about our forefathers making a Christian country for Christian people. No! They made a fair country for all people, regardless of the fact that they were Christian. They made a country that was open to all people, whether you were Christian, Jewish, Muslim, no matter what religion you worshipped, this country was supposed to be safe for you to worship in that religion, and not to have the Christian religion forced upon a Muslim person, or the Jewish religion forced upon a Native American. They didn't want that. They wanted a country where the people were free to worship as they choose, whatever religion they chose to worship, whether you like that religion or not. Not for your one particular religion to pay the government gobs of money and force your religion onto all the citizens of this nation. Because although I am a believer in God and Jesus Christ, I do not believe in all of the rules of organized religion. Because I do not believe the LGBTQ people are an abomination. I believe the LGBTQ community is a test for the Christian population. A test to prove you are capable of loving his LGBTQ children the way he loves you. And many of you have failed that test. And you're going to come back and say, oh, we're not going to go to hell for that because it says in the Bible that God hasn't lost one, or Jesus hasn't lost one of his people. Let's see. Why don't you take a closer look at that statement? Why don't you take a closer look at the number? There is a number. I can't remember if it's 1,444,400 and whatever, or if it's 4,400,044 whatever. I can't remember. But there's just a certain number. Now, in this world, there are more than that of Christians following and believing in Jesus Christ, or claiming to believe in Jesus Christ and being washed in the blood of God. There are more than that of Christians in the whole wide world. There's more than that of people in the whole wide world. But you're going to automatically assume that you're one of the saved ones. I do better than you on loving God's creation. And I can't be 100% sure that I am one of God's chosen people. Because we are all sinners. It just depends, what degree of a sinner are you? And I'm not going to hell for your sin. If I go to hell for anybody's sin, I'll go to hell for my own. And I do not see God faulting a woman for getting an abortion because the baby will kill her. No more than he would fault a person for killing a child because it has a gun and is going to kill you. I will not say that God will fault a woman for having a miscarriage and then having an abortion to remove that child. I am not going, and speaking of which, you want to put a woman in jail for having an abortion. Come on now, people. Then you need to put God in jail too, because a miscarriage in medical terminology is called a spontaneous abortion. But you want to put a woman in jail for that. Why don't you put God in jail for that? But you want to put a woman in jail who had a spontaneous abortion or a miscarriage because she's having that dead baby removed from her body. You want to put a woman who was raped by a man or molested by a man who doesn't know what STDs that man can have, who doesn't know what birth defects that man can pass on. that knows that once she gives birth to that child, if it's a female, can be subjected to the same abuses she was subjected to end up getting pregnant. She did nothing promiscuous to be raped or molested, but she was, and a seed was planted in her, and that seed could have horrific birth defects. That seed could have STDs. That seed can end up becoming the victim of the father because of the laws we have today. But you want to force her to have that baby. She never asked for it. You want to have some woman who was just told that their fetus is fine in their womb right now, but once it is born, it'll take minutes, maybe hours. It might even be days for it to slowly and agonizingly die. You want to force her to give birth to that baby and watch that baby die. How sick are you? If what they are doing is a sin in God's eye, then you let God determine that. That is not your determination. Because you will not go to hell for someone else's sin. You will only go to hell for your own. And let me tell you, those of you out there who are beating on LGBTQ citizens, those of you out there who are killing LGBTQ citizens, those of you out there who are discriminating against LGBTQ citizens, those of you are out there that are calling LGBTQ citizens abominations of God when God created them with both male and female sex organs, created them with little altercations in their chromosomes that make them the LGBTQ people they are. Those of you that are out there that are persecuting these people, you're more of a sinner than any of these LGBTQ citizens ever could be. And I am not going to go to hell for your sins. I may not be LGBTQ. But let me tell you something. I am not going to hell for your sins. Those are yours to go to hell for, not mine. Think about it, people. Think about it. And you're voting these GOP into office who keep on doing this crap. And then you're out there, oh, do something! Why? Why should they? You gave them no incentive to. In fact, you have told them in voting them into office to just keep on doing what they're doing. You're fine with it. You have no problem with it. You're just going to keep voting for them when all evidence show what they are doing is for greed and more harmful to the people in this nation. And now you're going to talk about gerrymandering and voter suppression and this and that. You know what? The only way those measures work, if you don't get up off your lazy butt, stop expecting the perfect candidate, and get out there and vote out the worst candidates. Because the more you vote out the worst candidates, the more those candidates are going to have to work to become more perfect candidates if they want you to vote for them. That's just plain and simple math. Common sense. And if you can't have that, and you won't vote, and another GOP gets elected into office, because you would not vote them out of office and make it so that their voter suppression and gerrymandering and whatever else they're doing does not work, then you are just as much to blame for all of it as they are. You are just as much a GOP voter as the true GOP voter is, because you allowed them to get elected by not voting. Your choice now is to vote for the people and for your own safety and your own rights, or vote against it. Voting for it means you'll vote for anybody but the GOP. And that includes, you will not vote for any independent candidate who used to be the GOP. Because I will tell you right now, if there's a GOP candidate out there running in the independent party, they are part of this gun problem too. Because they were the ones who were in office before Trump came in, who were voting against gun laws. They were voting against it during the time Obama was in office. And also voting against good border control. To allow those who have a right to ask for asylum to come in and ask for asylum, and to keep those who do not ask for asylum out of this country. We don't want open borders. We want to be able to determine a person in need of help and needing us to allow them in for asylum, or needing them to come in for schooling to better their own country, to make the world a better place. And between those who are potential dangers to our country. And we have means to do that. But the only border you're complaining about is the southern border. You don't care how many immigrants come across the border from other countries. It's just the southern border. Those little brown babies just scare the hell out of you, don't they? But you don't care if somebody flies in from, say, Ireland, and maybe they're part of the Irish mafia, and they're going to come over here and cause trouble. But you don't care. You don't care if they come from Turkey, and maybe they're a Muslim terrorist. Because those two countries, they can come over here without a visa. Basically, all they have to do is slap down their passport, say, I'm going to America. America will say, oh, fine. Poof, snap that stamp on the passport, and boom, here they come into America. They'll get off the damn plane. They'll go walking through our community. They'll disappear into the crowd and do God knows what. And as long as they are not on the terrorist watch list, they could be just newly minted little terrorists that have been given a mission in America. But hey, that's fine. That's totally fine with you. But let's not let the little brown babies from the southern border. Oh my God. Them brown babies are scary little buggers, aren't they? You people are ridiculous. Everything that's happening in this country, the gun, active shooter problems we have, the problems we have with the formula, that's on you. That's your fault. Because your vote does matter. Your vote does determine what happens in this country. By who you put in that office to represent you and to represent our Constitution and our rights. And who you put in that office that are going to change that Constitution so that you have less rights. Because they need their money. Am I saying the Democrats are perfect? Hell no! But am I saying the Democrats have at least tried to do more for the American citizens, especially those who are middle class and poor, than the Republicans have, especially within the last 10, 15 years? Yes! They have tried to do more for us than the Republicans have even tried. The Republicans have blocked more for us than they have even thought of making a bill for. So don't think I'm thinking the Democrats are perfect. Just remember that I'm knowing the Democrats have their flaws. But their flaws are far, far, far less than the destruction the Republicans are doing. So think about that. And especially think about that the next time that there's an active shooter and a mass shooting and 20 more children die. And you've got to take and use DNA to be able to identify that kid. Because although it may have been only one AR-15 bullet that went through that child's head, it split that child's head like a 10-pound sledgehammer hitting a cantaloupe. And there's nothing left in that head, in that face, to be able to identify that child. And that child doesn't have any fingerprints on file to be able to identify him. So the only thing that will identify that child, that mangled body, is a DNA test. And that is on you for voting in these GOP assholes. That is on you for constantly believing the NRA and GOP fear tactics. That is on you for not doing your research and looking at what other countries are doing that have far less gun violence than we do. And I would be more than happy to have Israel's gun policies than what we have here in America. Because then at least I'd know America's a hell of a lot safer. It may be far too restrictive, but it would be a hell of a lot safer. You people need to wake up, because this is on you.